Welcome back to this Live Sunday Talk Show here on the Arise News Channel. With me now, I have Professor Bola Akinterinwa, Professor of International Relations at the Achievers University, Owo, Ondo State, as well as Professor Anthony Kila, Professor of Strategy and Development and also Institute Director at the Commonwealth Institute of Advanced and Professional Studies. Well, Prof, thank you for joining us. Professor Kila, I see that you are in the Independence Day mood, in a celebratory attire, complete traditional attire. Well, today we've been discussing Nigeria 63. Within the time available to us, we've been able to look at political issues with Basharon Dele Momodu, publisher of Ovation magazine, and other matters. We have also spoken to Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, looking at the challenge of insecurity in Nigeria. Where did we get it wrong? And we had a rice correspondent, sports correspondent, Aaron Akirijola, looking at the sports sector. We can't look at all the sectors, but you are here. Today is Nigeria 63. The president of Nigeria has given a speech. One of the things that Chief Dele Momodu helped us to review, and we've seen the parade at the forecourt of the presidential villa, the cutting of cakes, church service, celebrations, and all of that. Well, what does Nigeria 63 mean to you? I don't think you are up to 63 yet, Professor Kila.
Thankfully not.
So let's start with you.
Because I'm the
younger generation.
Oh, thankfully. So, Nigeria 63. Well, so far, two facts. Number one is, as usual, we've had the same things we've been having 63 years. Parade, platitudes, reflections, pontification, and, and hopes. I say this thing, not to say they're not good or they're not important. I say because we've always had them. Even during the war, we had them. So that is the way of life. For me, so that's fact. One of the facts is that overall, the argument is not if Nigeria has done well or badly. Unfortunately, for Nigeria, let's put it this way. Factually, we have done some things. We have more graduates than we had 63 years ago. We had more universities. We have won some things in sport. We have done some things. So it's not that we're static and we've not done anything. The problem we have is that history and current affairs is against the history of Nigeria. Because the achievement that was done from 1955 to 1964 in Nigeria is more than what has been done from 1966 to 2023, in my view, in terms of the quantum, in terms of the leap that has been taken. So that makes it look bad. We have made some achievement, but when you compare what is going on in the world, it makes what we have done not so plausible. It doesn't give you a sense to say, well done. We haven't generated great leaders, great scientists, people that can be looked upon across the world for humanity to say, yes, this is a lot, and that's a bit of a problem. Now, generally speaking, when people look at the story of Nigeria, it seems to be complicated, complex. People say they don't even know what is wrong. My personal take, when I look at the story of Nigeria, is that it's a story of three generations, the history of Nigeria. We have the first generation, the generation of the founders, the forefathers, the founders of Nigeria. Those who are visionary leaders, people who had big dreams from Nigeria. They communicated with big speeches and they had grand ideas. That's the generation of the Awolowo, Tafawa Balewa, Nnamdi Azikiwe are the three images they use. I will insist that we had the likes of Michael Okpara, Anthony Enaro, Ikoku, Macaulay, Herbert Macaulay, that is, in that view. That is the first generation. Then we had the second generation of people who did not try to persuade or convince us. They came in khakis and guns and took over government. Those ones are the ones that destroyed the institutions in the name of trying to correct it. They were there for a long time. They didn't make any quantum leap. If anything, they turned the middle class, they turned them to beggars, annihilated them. Thanks to that second generation of force users, we created a generation of survival, people who were just going to survive. So we had a country where professionals became beggars, contractors became bribers, and all of a sudden everybody's trying to survive. And in that survival mood, people lost the sense of dignity, diligence, dedication, and devotion to cause, ideals, and ideas. And all of a sudden, everybody's, instead of fighting to get good roads, people are buying SUVs. Instead of fighting for light, they're buying generators. Mind you, some of them had to loot or steal to be able to afford the generator. Instead of getting good schools, they're going to private schools or sending their children abroad. So that is where we are. That's the second generation. And, you know, the generation that created that left power after disgrace and allowed their ill king. So that if you compare what we had towards 1960, the First Republic, to what we have here now, the democracy we have is so monetized. People are so disgruntled and despondent, and most things is about money and less about idea. And that is not a great thing. But maybe a new generation will stand up. I believe in technology that can help us. A generation that will understand that dedication, commitment, and ideas matters for something, and that can gauge themselves. I believe that the Nigeria that has been created from 1966, a central unified Nigeria, is a failure. What we have at hand is not what was dreamed. I say this because this is the day of thinking of Nigeria. It is not the dream of the founding fathers. This centralized, strong executive power, government so powerful, is a failure. I think we need to rethink Nigeria. Nigeria is not a state nation. Nigeria is a union of nations. And the best way to think forward is to move towards strong federal Nigeria, regional Nigeria if necessary. We have to decentralize power, digitalize process, and devolve authority.
Well, Professor Akinterinwa, what do you think? You are the older generation. You were here before independence. You were probably one of those young people who were waving flags when the Union Jack was lowered in 1960.
I did. You see, when we reflect, when we look at life in 1960, honestly, I prefer life in 1960 than life in 2023.
But yeah.
It's better not to even have electricity today and then be in our usual darkness and then be happier. You know, I came to Lagos in 1962 to come and watch the International Trade Fair that was organized. We were brought from our schools, from the states. By that time, you can drive.
No, not from the states, from the regions.
From the regions.
Yes, from the villages.
From the villages.
Yes.
You cannot be more correct. You said it earlier on. So you see, when you are asking the question, where did we go wrong? Professor Kila has given us some aspects of the explanation. But I think that there is the need to distinguish between, you know, what obtained before 1999, particularly during the First Republic. We had Nigerians without Nigeria. We had Nigerians, but without Nigeria. Nigeria did not exist in the psyche, in the mentality of the people calling themselves Nigerians by that time. Early in 1962, that was the first time the idea of saying, look, Igbo people should secede. Literature has shown that before manifestation in 1966-67. By that time, the Nigerians that existed were working towards having Nigeria, having a united Nigeria, united people. We didn't have Tafawa Balewa, Obafemi Awolowo, Ziki, all of them. They were natives. They were not ready. They were not even thinking in terms of cheating. They were very altruistic, very patriotic, very focused. Policies they put in place Look, every time when they talk about Obafemi Awolowo, there is one record I like that I always put on in my car. When Awolowo died, according to Ebenezer Obi, first television in Africa, first this, all of them were competing.
Yeah.
And they really wanted to build a nation, a Nigerian nation. Today, 2023, contrary to Nigerians without Nigeria, today we now have Nigeria without Nigerians. That is the fundamental difference. When we begin to take the issues one by one, you will see. Now you take the politicians themselves. I love one statement made by Chief Philip Asiodu during a seminar at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. He said that, look, one way of addressing very constructively, very meaningfully, Nigeria's problem of corruption, bad governance, all along, say, make political governance unattractive. He said, all these National Assembly people, when people were saying, okay, let's give them part-time jobs, as they say, make political governance unattractive. Then you will see that people will not be rushing there. But since politics is money-making, then what else will you expect? What went wrong? I agree with Professor Kila that, look, the first approach, which when we are preaching, for instance, like today we are talking about regional integration, African unity. You are working towards unity by dividing it. It's not possible. You cannot be united by dividing. You can only divide what is already united. That's the hard facts. Now, in the context of Nigeria, 3 regions plus Midwest created in 1963 in an attempt to enforce unity, in an attempt to take power, take the seat away from Odumegwu Ojukwu from sitting down. Nigeria was divided, the 3 plus Midwest divided into 12 states. And in this case, that's the beginning of the problem. When Professor Kila was talking about Nigeria not being a state nation but a union of nations, yes, he couldn't have been more correct again. When you divide nations into states, what are you really doing? That's the beginning of the problem. But why that particular problem? You know, after 12 states, it was Babangida that increased that one to 19. You are further dividing a united, united state, united country, united region. Please, if you look at it on a very serious note, when we had regions, they were internationally represented. They have their representations, commercial, something, and so on and so forth.
Okay, Prof.
This is the problem.
I would like us to focus a little bit on the themes that we took on, today. I see the general programmatic response to those issues, but specifically President Tinubu's broadcast, the state of security in the country, and then I was looking for something that we could celebrate. I thought sports would be something that we could celebrate, but when Aaron Akinterinwa came on the program, he had even more terrible things to say about sports administration in Nigeria. Professor Kila, let me come back to you briefly so before we begin to look at other issues.
Well, I think one of the newest problems we've not inherited, but the problem we're encountering is the problem of security. And I must say it's a good thing that the president mentioned that in his speech, because it is easy to hide one's head in the sand and pretend it's not there. Because of the problems we're having with labor, with energy, with forex, there's less talk about security, and it becomes a matter of who feels it knows it all. The pain is still there. Security is one of those problems that we've had. Sociologists will say that the problem we have with security is because of people out of school, because of poverty, and this leads to insecurity. That is true, and I think we need to deal with that. But I am less sociologist and more militaristic in the affair of security. I believe we need to deal with the social issues leading to security, but I also believe that we need to act very firmly and strongly on security. I think it's an indictment to the armed forces, to the security apparatus of Nigeria, that they cannot resolve this issue. Because whilst it is true that we need to educate people, win their mind, I also believe that it is true that we need to deploy our armed forces to know that the country is at war and to go and win that war, whatever it takes. It is hard to believe that anybody can be more organized than the Nigerian Army, Navy, and Air Force put together. But I struggle to believe that. I think, and I say this not only because I want them to defeat the people who are putting fears in our life in a strong way, but also because the fact that Nigeria is at knees in security is a very dangerous index. It is a symptom of a failed or failing state. Because the essence of a state, I've had many causes to say this, is legitimate and superior deployment of force. When the state, any state, that cannot legitimately deploy superior force, that state is failed or failing. So this idea of we have a security program, we're living with it, is a very dangerous index. So I think somehow an emergency state needs to be, it has been declared. By the way, when some of us was asking it to be declared, people said it's not possible. But as usual, we acknowledge we were right when the rest of the country moves to our point. Now it has been declared before now. I think we need to act it. We need to know that security is a sine qua non element for peace, progress, and prosperity. And that is a key thing that I take away from that. And I do think that moving forward, that needs to be said. I'll reserve the next lot to talk about sports.
Prof, to talk about sports. Well, you never know.
You see, why I like Nigerians, but not loving Nigerians, is simply that we like beautiful things to talk about.
Yeah.
We never, for once, sit down to address the main problem. If Professor Kila is talking about deployment of force, etc., my own is just to laugh. I am saying, because I've had the opportunity to repeat on this platform, because the Yoruba people have said, that is, the enemy, the arch enemy is outside, but your threat, your problem, what is disturbing you is at home, not outside. How will you have the enemies of the state in government, in the public service? People who will report your movement. We have very beautiful army, well-organized army. When they are going to fight, when they are going outside, before they even leave their position, their house, the enemy already knows, and they will lead them. And we are talking about security. You can't have any security. Now here, let me give you an example. How, for God's sake, a vehicle will come to the territorial waters of Nigeria, 3, 4, 5 days, loading a vessel, thousands of liters. Then they will not have, the naval officers will not know
any clue of what happened.
It is only when the vessel had left the continental shelf areas
200 nautical miles.
Yes. Now they will not be running, say they are purchasing. Now we have been told again, you have these oil thieves. How can NNPC, for God's sake, for Allah's sake, now pretend not to know that there are oil thieves how will you be draining?
No, they say they know. They don't know who they are.
Well, they don't know. That's another way of saying they don't know. You see, when we talk about insecurity, please, there are 3 levels. Security of the state.
Yeah.
That is what the DSS, all of them are all occupied. You criticize them, they look for you. They neutralize you. That is their own sense of security to ensure.
No, but their job is to secure the state.
Yes, security.
We are saying the same thing.
The integrity of the state. Yes.
State in this case.
And if you try to sabotage the state, they come after.
I don't use the word state to imply only government.
State qua state. I understand.
So, now, security of the people, which is qualified as
Homeland Affairs.
yes, human security,
Security, yes.
provision of basic needs of the people.
Yeah.
Now, societal security, regional security. When one of our guests was talking about, I think it was Captain Sadiq Sheikh,
Yes,
who was talking about the need for Nigeria to take active part in what is happening, that it will not be good to
import.
to work out of that. Well, I agree with him only to a very limited extent. Any country that wants to be powerful, reckoned with, respected, regarded, please, you can look at the examples of others. In 1823, United States adopted the principle of isolationism to re-strategize. In the 70s, China withdrew in order to re-strategize.
Building world.
Everybody, people talk about Singapore and so on and so forth. Every country that wants to be relevant, you first of all withdraw. That's what we call defensive-offensive strategy. And if it is offensive-defensive strategy that is of essence for you, you adopt it. So the mere fact that we are a member of the ECOWAS, more so that Nigeria and Togo were instrumental to its establishment in 1975. Please, you see,
okay.
Grosso modo.
Yes, there's still one topic I want to say. Why do I get the impression that both of you, professors, are trying to avoid President Tinubu's statement to Nigerians
We are
today?
coming to it. Look.
Well, did you listen to the speech?
Yeah,
I listened to it. I watched it from.
Okay, could you comment on that briefly before we take another topic?
Let me tell you that from an aesthetic point of view, I like his appearance, first of all. The cap, the dress reflected national colors, which was good in itself. The opening, the structure of the speech itself
You
is
expect him to dress well. Our look on.
No, dressing well. Okay. It's not putting on clean dresses, etc. all along.
It's a symbolic.
Yes, symbolic. Everything must conform.
But his wife even did better when she showed up.
You didn't ask me a question about the wife. So the speech
you are talking
itself,
about aesthetics.
Yes.
I'm just extending it.
I know.
That is an our local affair.
No, for me, our local this time, he didn't say it. He said a me local. It's not our this time. It's not for everybody. So, and that, on the basis of that a me, that is myself, that will be the basis of the analysis. He started by thanking, our forefathers and all those who try to keep Nigeria united.
Yeah.
And telling people who do not believe in a united Nigeria that, look, it's most unfortunate.
Yeah.
That one is there. He in fact, gave a very diplomatic speech. Diplomatic in the sense that, you see, diplomats, whatever they are doing, even when they know that an organization, a statement, a reception is not good, they will still thank the organizers for doing very well. So, Tinubu congratulated, commended all his compatriots. He spoke as president, and he also spoke as a Nigerian, as an ordinary Nigerian. So So he used the two words compatriots and then referring to the colleagues. Now on the issues he raised, for instance, he raised the issue of grant. I call it grant, but he called it provisional wage, you know, provisional wage. Award. What's the meaning of award? When you talk about an award, that means that it is another bonus in itself. You are not going to recover that. And award, it was very ambiguous. He didn't tell us when it will commence, and he didn't tell us what will happen after 6 months. Because what you start, when people begin to enjoy something, you cannot take back. International Labour Convention has it that any concession you make to any worker, the moment he starts enjoying it, you cannot make it reversible again.
Not revocable.
It's not revocable. Now you are talking about award. Will there be another appropriation? Where are you going to get this money from? But since it's an award, a grant, to be given 6 months on a monthly basis, why should Tinubu always be discriminating against people like me? Now, you say people who are earning the low-cadre people.
Average low-grade workers.
Yeah, but we people that have retired, how much is our pension? If you are giving money, don't give to a section of people. It must go round. It's better to give one naira to everybody, let it go round. Who says that I'm not poorer than the people that are talking about?
Prof, you
are not poor.
now. You have benefited from this country for so many years.
No, please, I've not.
Why are you saying you want an award?
You are an international
You are
scholar.
aware. Let me tell you.
You earn in Forex.
Let me tell you. All these big Nigerians.
You are a professor. You are still working. Even as a pensioner, you are a professor in the university.
Under normal circumstances.
Yes, sir.
In very good countries where aged people are catered for and catered to.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be struggling again to say I am working. Why should I be working? I should be reflecting, guiding the society. But the issue is that when I see many people speaking on the television nowadays, talking about 63 years, do you know how much I have been victimized? The system. Please, I still have an outstanding case that, look, the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs where I worked, they certainly owe me 4 million. And I'm prepared to spend 4 million to get lawyer to get them do this. Why should I be doing that?
Okay.
And then
Professor Akinterinwa making a case for pensioners. All of us, we have to make a case for ourselves. So. All of us in this matter, because all of us are average low-grade workers. At the end of the
those
day.
who are enjoying,
Yes.
these are
People like Ruben Abachi.
It is not possible. It is not possible for any Nigerian retiree to live well if he had not stolen when he was in office. How much are you earning
and that's
to enable you to do this? But when you are honest in Nigeria, you are punished.
Okay, very briefly.
Yes.
Prof.
The president's speech.
Kila, your point about the president's speech, so that we can talk about France. We can't have two experts on international relations, and we can't talk about France.
I think the president's speech was a well-written speech and even well-delivered.
They like good speeches.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Especially, and I think
it's not
the speech. It's not how to. I think there's an improvement in especially if you read the speeches, there's improvement in the content of the speeches delivered.
It's very brief and direct.
In presidency now. And the theme, is good in content and structure, but especially the content. Because I've been an advocate of right speech at the right time. When you compare it to the one that left there, this speech actually is a 1st October speech, at least in most of the part. He acknowledges the history of Nigeria and, breaks forward. He talks about the need for unity. And this is what I'll say. I disagree on the president's stance, for example, on the vision of Nigeria. The presidents want a united Nigeria. I don't believe we need to be united in Nigeria. I believe we can be a diverse Nigeria where everybody is growing at their pace. We can understand that Nigeria is a union of diverse people with different worldviews. And we don't have to hate or love each other. We just have to be free and live within the limit of the law, which is very clear and transparent and certain. That, for me, is the new frontier of battle, a legal thing. I think that's the key. The rest of the things are issues of government, not even governance. The reforms, the forex, the forex subsidy, the taxes, you know, those are mundane, albeit important, issues of government, which many people are talking about.
Okay, let's take our final topic of the day. We've been talking about Nigeria at 63 all day. Now let's talk about France. France is withdrawing its ambassador to Niger and ending all defense cooperation after weeks of tension with the military junta. President Emmanuel Macron says the withdrawal will be completed by the end of the year. The military, which seized power back in July, has welcomed the move, calling it a step towards sovereignty. Thousands have been regularly protesting in the capital, Niamey, calling for the 1,500 French troops to leave the country. The troops have been deployed there to fight Islamist insurgents. The United States also has more than 1,000 troops in Niger, but these have not been asked to leave. Well, very quickly, we have some of those events on the screen. Well, Professor Akinterinwa, who has written books on the presence of France
French
in Africa, yes.
No, yes, we must link to him. I have not written a book on French presence. I belong to a book called French in Africa, where we read in French, and it's made up a lot of French scholars. Now, here's the point. I think the French government, and indeed the people, have really seen a very bad moment in the last months and weeks on the issue of Africa, because all of a sudden, France has become the terrible, bad colonial symbol. And because some people argue in France that they have gone there to help, that they've gone there to stop insurgency, to fight terrorists, and they do not feel appreciated. So they followed the saying that if the people say they don't want you in a dancing floor, there's no point you bring in drummers. You walk away. France has decided to walk away to prove a point that they're not as opportunistic as they claim. And I think it's a good move.
Professor Akinterinwa, I know you are the expert. You can spend the whole day on the subject. But we have just 2 minutes to go.
Very briefly, France has accepted to withdraw in order to remain. It's as simple as that. When you withdraw, but you are not looking at the other issues. As at now, one Mr. Vincent Cruz, a former intelligence officer with SDBC, has advised the government of Nigeria, of France, to carry out destabilization, operations in Niger. Even if he didn't say that, history has shown that that has been the pattern. So we know quite well that France will be coming back. Secondly, when you look at what Professor Bassiati had already argued in the 70s, in the 80s.
79.
Now, France had been the representative of Western countries, of NATO countries in Africa. Valéry Giscard d'Estaing himself talked about the triumvirate, 3-point alliances, US, Europe, and Africa. So, the mere fact that France is going out, withdrawing, does not mean France is not actually present and will not be present. Let's just put it that way. The issue, the challenge for us as Nigerians and for Nigeria is simply to prepare for these destabilization operations. And then by the time you are able to do this, I think it will be good. But on a concluding note, France said it does not respect or recognize the junta.
The military.
The military. But at the end of the day, the unrecognized junta has compelled you to get out. Meaning now that in the theory of international relations generally, recognition of government and recognition of state, the two are never the same. We should take note of that.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Bola Akinterinwa, and thank you very much, Professor Anthony Kila. Good to see you again. I hope I'll see you again next Sunday. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From my entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching.